Brendan Dassey trial transcript day 5, continuing on page 35. Sure, the door is right here, and here's that exit door to go outside, the one that Brendan talked about, and the cement steps was right there by the bedroom. The garage would be basically right over here, and this is the bed drawn in here, the little desk. I think it's like a two-drawer file cabinet there that he had in the room, the bookcase, and you'll see on the wall here is the gun rack. All right, and did you commission Trooper Austin to do one other animated still for your investigation? Yes, we did. All right, I'm showing you now what has been marked for identification as Exhibit 212. What is depicted in Exhibit 212? Again, this is Steve's garage. As you can see, the big garage door here, the small entry door of the garage, some of the important things in this rendering would be that John Deere lawnmower that we talked about that he had drawn in, which is right there. And if you remember, he got the actually the RAV4 in here too, backed in, which fits very well. All right, now just so we're clear, there appears to be significantly less clutter in the photo than in the original photograph of that garage. Is that correct? Yes. And was that specifically requested of Trooper Austin? It was. And was that to just facilitate the general layout of the garage? Yes. All right. And do you believe that to be a representative portrayal of the information provided by the defendant? Yes, I do. All right. Investigator Wiegert, for the record then, what was the address of Stephen Avery's trailer and garage? 12932 Avery Road, town of Gibson, Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. And is that the location where the defendant attributed these events occurred? It is. Attorney Fallon, I have no further questions for this witness. Would you move into evidence exhibits 207, 208, 209, 210, 211, 212? And I've forgotten the exhibit number for the DVD of the interview, but we would move that in as well. The court, I don't think there is a number for it, but there is one for the waiver of rights, the 206. Attorney Fallon, and 206. The court. So we'll mark the DVD. That would be 213. You're asking that be Attorney Fallon? Yes. The court. You're offering it? Attorney Fallon. I would offer that as the official record. The court. All right. Mr. Freeman, any objections to any of those? Attorney Freeman? No. The court. Then exhibits 206 through and including 213, which is going to be marked right now, the CD, are receipt. Attorney Fallon. I think it's a DVD. The court. I'm sorry. DVD. Yes. Attorney Fallon. You have that, Ms. Clerk? The clerk, not yet. Attorney Fallon, not yet. All right. The clerk, I just have a sticker for it. Attorney Fallon, all right. We'll produce that before the end of the day. With receipt of those exhibits, we would tender the witness for cross-examination. The court, cross. Attorney Edelstein, Your Honor, prior to commencing cross, could we take our afternoon break? There's a number of exhibits I need to gather up. The court, all right. We'll break until 2:45. Attorney Fallon, very well. Thank you. Recess had at 2:26 p.m., reconvened at 2:47 p.m. The court. Cross. Attorney Edelstein. Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Wiegert, you covered a lot of ground, so bear with me if I jump around a little bit. Yes, sir. You've been with Calumet for 14 years, right? Yes. And you are now classified as an investigator, I believe you said? That's correct. That any different than a detective? Same thing, different name. So you're involved with more, shall we say, investigative duties from events as opposed to day-to-day responding to calls, taking reports, things like that? Yes, that's true. All right, now you established early on that yourself and Fossbender became what you've been characterizing as the lead investigators into the disappearance of Teresa Halbach, right? Yes. Okay, and I take it there was no particular hierarchy, even though he's a state employee and you're a county employee? Considered my partner. All right, so the two of you are working together on this thing throughout, from the beginning through today, basically? Yes. Okay, if you got a piece of information, you shared it with him and vice versa? When I could. What, if anything, would have prevented you from sharing the information? There's a lot of information in this case, and I believe we shared as much as we could together. Just in fairness, though, you did your very best to make sure that he knew what you knew and you knew what he did. We did our best. All right, now I believe you began your testimony yesterday talking about Kayla, right? Yes. And you went to Kayla because you received some information that she might have known something about Brendan losing some weight, right? Which time? On the 20th? Well, let me ask it to you this way. What was the first date you talked to Kayla? Yes, February 20. That's not, let me answer your first question. That's not the reason we talked to Kayla initially, no. When you talked to Kayla on the 20th, I understood your testimony to be based upon the fact that you'd received some information from someone, and you didn't say who, that you needed to talk to Kayla, that she had some information. We talked to Kayla. She had information about Stephen Avery, not about Brendan losing weight, as you said. But in any event, when you were there, you had spoke to her, and you testified, she told you that he lost about 40 pounds, right? Yes. Okay, had you never met Brendan Dassey as of the 20th of February, had you? No, I had not. You didn't know how old he was? As of the 20th, I knew he was a teenager. As to his exact age, no, I don't think I knew his exact age. You really didn't know. Did you know where he went to school? Well, I assumed where he went to school in Mishicot from where he lived. Okay, but you hadn't checked with the school to verify he was a student there? On the 20th, I don't recall if I would have by then or not. I don't think so. Okay, but I'm not sure. I'm going to hand you for the record what has been admitted as 163. Yes. And you're familiar with that, right? I am, yes. And for the record and the benefit of the jury, what is it? It's the statement in which we talked about, I believe, yesterday that Kayla Avery had wrote on the 7th of March. Okay, and that was after you had gone back to talk with her, right? That was after the school had contacted us. Right, okay. Now the 7th of March, in relation to the lengthy interview that everybody just saw between you and Fossbender and Brendan, was 6 days later, right? Yes. Okay, and isn't it a fact that on the first day of March, you, Fossbender, members of the prosecution team, held a widely publicized press conference? There was a press conference, yes. And is it fair to characterize that as a press conference stating that Brendan Dassey has confessed to his involvement in the disappearance of Teresa Halbach? I believe that would be accurate. I believe you testified on direct with respect to the interview of March 7, and correct me if this is not what you said, that after he saw Teresa Halbach pinned up in the bedroom, he heard screaming in the bedroom. Do you remember that testimony? This is after Brendan, are you talking about? I'm sorry. Right, as related to you by Kayla? I believe that's correct. You do not? No, I believe that's correct. Okay. When you talked with Kayla, she led you to believe that there was a chair involved in some sort of restraint with Teresa, right? According to Kayla, that Brendan had told Kayla that Teresa was pinned up in a chair. And when does she claim that Brendan told her that? According to my recollection, she claims it was in December of '05 because she remembers it because there was a birthday party at her house. Right, and you got that information from her when? We got that information in March. Well, and that would be related in 163? Yes, that's correct. Okay, so in March, about 6 days after this press conference, she's telling you that the defendant said Teresa was pinned up in a chair. After the school calls us and tells us that they had learned about information about this homicide, officer, Attorney Edelstein, with the court permission, I don't mean to quibble. I didn't ask you about the school. My question was 6 days after the interview, 6 days after the press conference. That's when Kayla tells you that the defendant claimed that Teresa had been pinned up in a chair. Correct or not? Yes, that's correct. All right, and it is true, is it not, that even through this lengthy video, at no time did Brendan ever claim that Teresa was pinned up in a chair? Yes or no? No. He did not? In a chair, no. So that would be an inconsistency in his statements, correct? Attorney Fallon, objection. The court, to foundation, the objection is sustained. Why don't you make that clearer, please? The statement you got from Kayla reporting what Brendan told you, you got it from her? You didn't take that as a statement, so to speak, of Brendan? I took it as what Brendan told Kayla. Exactly. His statement. All right, but then based upon what he told you, as far as this pinning up business, that would not match, correct? No, I wouldn't agree with that. Does it match to the extent that he described it pinning up in a chair? The chair is different, but she was pinned up. Now, when you talk about the pinning up, I assume you're saying there's some consistency because of his statement to you in this 3-1 statement that he saw Teresa tied up or restrained on the bed, right? Yes. Okay, let's talk about the bed real quick. For the record, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as 211, which is the Austin photograph, computer-generated depiction of the bedroom of Stephen Avery, right? Yes. And you testified that he prepared that based upon the drawing that Brendan provided to you during the course of the 3-1 interview, right? No, that's not true. It's not? No. Okay, what is 208? 208 is Brendan's drawing. Okay, and that's how he claims the bedroom was on October 31, right? Yes. Well, help me out then. 211 that Austin prepared, what is this based on? Is this not based on what Brendan was telling you? I believe what I testified to is that it was based on statements by Brendan and Steve Avery's fiancee, Jody Stachowski. Okay, but it was supposed to depict the condition of the Steve Avery bedroom as of October 31, correct? That is correct. All right, now I'm going to leave you this one. Sure. All right, you see on the exhibit, and it's number 208 that's up on the Elmo, it shows where the closet is in that bedroom, right? Yep. Okay, now this Austin one also shows the closet, correct? Yes. Okay, as I'm holding it oriented up, so to speak, for the benefit of the record, just like in this one with the closet or in the up portion, correct? Sure. This should be the same, right? This should be the same. Well, the Austin rendition and what Brendan drew, because you believe that to be the configuration on the 31st, should be the same. That's, as I stated before, that's based on not only Brendan, but from Jody Stachowski. I understand that, but they, in any event, should be the same, right? No, that's based on two people's statements. Well, if we look at the Austin rendition, you have the bed in the furthest possible corner. I don't know if that's north, south, east, or west. Where's your laser pointer? Right here. On the Austin rendition, this bed is actually up against this wall, right? That's true, Okay, and in Brendan's, the bed is not up against the wall, correct? Right, it's moved out a few feet, okay? On the same wall. On the same wall as to the head side, so to speak? Yes, but not the left side, right? That's correct, Okay, and on Brendan's, I don't want to get the clerk, and on Brendan's, he has some furniture off to the left side of the bed, right? That is true. But when you had Austin prepare this one, you have that furniture off on this side. Again, that's a culmination of Jody Stachowski's and Brendan's statements are represented there. I understand that, but what you testified earlier, you asked Austin to prepare this based upon what both of them told you. That is true. Are there inconsistencies between Exhibit 208, as prepared for you at your request by Brendan Dassey on the 1st, and Exhibit 211 that you asked Austin to prepare? Sure, yeah. When, and if you can, give me a date, did Brendan Dassey become a suspect in a criminal offense in your mind? Well, there were a lot of suspects. I mean, Brendan Dassey, detective, again, I don't mean to quibble with you. I didn't ask you about a lot of other suspects. I don't care about other suspects. I want to know in your mind when Brendan Dassey became a suspect in a criminal offense. Probably in March. What day in March? The day that he told us that he killed, raped, and mutilated Teresa Halbach. Okay, and that was? That was March 1. All right. You had talked earlier on direct for the benefit of educating those folks who are not familiar with the criminal investigation process about the differences a little bit between, I think you called it an interview and an interrogation, right? I talked earlier about that. I believe you did. Maybe not today. I think it might have been yesterday. I don't recall talking about it today. That's why I'm asking, but I'll take your word for it. Well, even if it wasn't yesterday, sure. There is a difference, right? Sure. All right. You interview witnesses. You interrogate suspects, right? Not necessarily, but there's not a fine line. You're looking to draw a fine line. There's really not that fine line. Well, you knew as one of the lead investigators that Skorlinski, Baldwin, and O'Neill had already spoken with Brendan up in Marinette County, right? That's true, yes. And certainly by the 1st of March, you had received fairly detailed information from them, perhaps including a transcript made from the little recording device up in O'Neill's car, right? I did not receive the transcript by March 1, but I did have a chance to review reports. Okay, so you had basically a summary of what it was about? Sure. And if I'm guessing correctly, you talked with Skorlinski, or maybe Fassbender did, and you got the same information? I did not talk to Skorlinski. Did Fassbender, to your knowledge? You'd have to ask him that. Okay, we can do that. Sure. You also testified about that you and Agent Fassbender had spoken with Brendan on the 27th of March? I'm sorry, February? Yes. And that occurred on actually 2 different locations, 3 different locations on the 27th, am I correct? Yes. Attorney Fallon, excuse me, Your Honor, may counsel and I approach the court? You may. Discussion off the record. The court will excuse the jury at this point for a few minutes. Jurors out at 3:09 p.m. The court. All right, be seated. Mr. Fallon, you're anticipating apparently some questions that you may or may not find objectionable. Can we ask you what it is that you perhaps will find objectionable and see indeed if those are going to be asked?